Freshworks as an organization, who are we? Why are we doing this session for you all? And what do we know about this space, right? Freshworks as a company, we started more than 10 years ago. And at this point, we have more than 400 million in funding. And we've had funding from Axel, Sequoia, and Tiger. And not only that, we're all over the globe. We have 13 offices across the globe, which is our own offices. And in addition to that, we also have a great partner network who can help us in non-English speaking countries, who help our customers reap the best benefit out of our solutions. And we have more than 40,000 customers in over 145 countries. And it doesn't end there. We have been recognized by the industry. We have been recognized by the industry as leaders and as niche players in the ITSM space. We have appeared in Gartner Magic Quadrant for 3 consecutive years as of now. And we are there in Forrester Wave. And we also have Pink verification. And they've also been awarded Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice. With all these accolades, we are marching forward in the ITSM space. And why are we doing what we're doing, right? What is Freshworks doing, really? We really want our customers to provide a great customer experience for their customers. And one of the ways in which we help you, our customers, to do that is by making your employees much more productive, by making sure that your employees have an enhanced experience in your organization. And through technology, through digital transformation, we will help you have better customers for life. With that said, here are some of our customers across the world. We have customers like Cisco, Zoom, Toyota, Capita, Groupon, UNICEF. Our customers come from all industries and across the globe. And to be more specific, some of our customers from Middle East and Africa include Aramex, Holiday Me, Deadbusters, Home Choice, GCX, and so on. So there would be some of the names that you're familiar with who trust us for their digital transformation and for their technological advancement. With that said, that sets the context of who we are and why we're talking what we're talking today. And then let's talk about why right-sized ITSM, right? Why are we talking about right-sized ITSM today? What is the need for it? All of the organizations have service management solutions. They have a need for service management solutions. And these organizations come from various industries. And even within one particular industries, there are different kinds of organizations, right? Some organizations have a very modern approach to their technology, while some of the organizations are more traditional when it comes to their technological structure. So a service management solution that has to cater to all of these businesses cannot be just one particular template, right? It cannot be one size fits all. That is where we need to be aware of a right-sized ITSM. You need to have a solution that will fit your business needs and your business requirements that is very specific for your own organization, because the needs of your organizations are going to be very unique. And why are we talking about it today? Because there are so many changes that happen in the market, right? For example, in the last 7 to 8 months, the whole IT has evolved, and the requirement for IT has come to the forefront. Far from being at the back end of business, IT has come to the forefront, making sure that the businesses are able to thrive in this pandemic, where physical offices are almost becoming irrelevant when it comes to running your business. And IT is the one who is enabling all your employees to work from wherever they are, right? So IT has become much more important now, and this transition did not happen over years. This has forced many organizations to go through the digital transformation in a very short span of time. So digital transformation is no more a distant plan it's not a 5-year plan for an organization. It is an immediate necessity for all organizations to thrive in this pandemic. And because of this, organizations are realizing that business and IT need to work together. IT is no more at the back end. IT is no more only for service provisioning or only for issues. It is very important for your business to run smoothly. And that is why right-sized ITSM is much more important today. And then when we talk about right-sized ITSM, it is not only about the capabilities and the functionalities that the solution comes with, right? It also includes the ROI that you can see from the solution. Again, putting the glass of the pandemic right now, every organization is trying to do more with less. Every IT department is trying to do more with less. Organizations are not increasing the number of agents that they have. Organizations are not increasing the number of licenses that they have for an ITSM solution. But the workload on IT has definitely increased a lot over the last few months. And how are organizations able to scale to this? If they keep continuing to add licenses or if they keep continuing to add more agents, then they're not realizing a great ROI out of it. So you need to be investing in a solution which can do a lot more with a lot less. And that is where having a solution that gives you a great ROI is very important. And how do you evaluate the ROI of several service management solutions? There are a lot of service management solutions out there. So how do you evaluate the upfront costs? How do you evaluate the hidden costs? Hidden costs out of a service management solution. So we'll be seeing about all of these in today's session, and we will be having a lot of insights shared by Anthony over the next 30 minutes. That said, there are a lot of challenges that modern IT is facing today. Agreed that traditional IT organizations are suffering with just having a proper IT technology for their organizations. But then there are modern IT organizations which are also facing a lot of challenges. For example, the first one that we would like to talk about in today's session is improving agent productivity. As we just mentioned earlier, agent productivity has become a very important thing now because the number of agents has not increased in the last 7 or 8 months. The number of licenses in the service management solution has not increased greatly, but the number of incidents that come into the bucket, the number of issues that are raised by the employees has become much higher than what it used to be. The burden of an IT team has become much more than what it used to be a few months ago. So here comes the question of how do you ensure that your agents are productive? How do you ensure that your agents are spending their time in the right problems? That is where improving agent productivity comes into play. Now, before we dive deep into the session, let me quickly ask a question to all of you to understand how things are in your organization. So, which category of tickets do your agents spend the most time in? You'll be able to see a poll on your monitor right now. Please select an answer that fits right to your organization. Is it L1 tickets? Are those tickets which are repetitive? Are those tickets mostly about, let's say, password reset, or let's say I'm not able to log into my email? Are those tickets of those sort? Or are those tickets which are a little more complex, which are L2 and L3 tickets? Or are those L4 tickets where you have a lot of teams involvement to resolve that particular issue? Thank you. Thank you for responding to that poll. Now, as we can see clearly that a lot of the organizations, a lot of the agents spend their time in resolving L1 tickets, in resolving L2 and L3 tickets, which, to be honest, can be automated using workflow automators and a lot of automation AI technologies available in the ITSM space today. So this is the area that you can focus when you think about agent productivity. Now, let's see what are all the common challenges when it comes to improving agent productivity, right? Most of the agents spend their time in manual tasks. For example, routing an incoming ticket to the proper agent group is one of the manual tasks that can be avoided. Or working on repetitive tasks which can be avoided with automation or K-based articles. And waiting for approval is a huge area where the time is being blocked. And the lack of transparency in terms of understanding agent performance is another hurdle. So how do organizations overcome these hurdles, and how do organizations improve their agent productivity in spite of the current pandemic? Now let's invite Anthony to share his insight and ideas about this. Hey, Anthony.
Hello, how are you? I hope you can hear me and see me as well. You can give me a thumbs up if you can. Yes? All right, excellent. So thank you for that, Balarama, for the great insights. And to your question in regards to some of the challenges that also from my personal experience that I've seen, I'm happy to share, especially when you're looking at agent productivity. Of course, the whole idea is to elevate the service experience and just to make this work optimally for the organization. And how can you enhance this? And what are some of the levers that you can actually put in place to make sure that they are there. Because some of the challenges that I've personally seen is when you talk about agent productivity and when you have too many repetitive tasks that are very, similar. But then, of course, it's a question of how then can you leverage on tools, or how can you have, a very good innovative approach just to make sure that your agents are not just really firefighting, but they're pretty much being productive across the full life cycle of the incidences and some of the tickets that they get. So some of the challenges that you'd have here is, especially when you look at time wasting, and this is where the spillages come in, when they're dealing with some of the repetitive yet manual tasks. So you're not able to optimize their ability just to be very efficient. You're not able to, make sure that they're actually doing things that really require, and allow me to use this term, intellectual work, in terms of, as opposed to addressing just repetitive tasks which can be time consuming and cumbersome. Because the other challenge then would be you have a lot of repetition, and this is mainly redundant. And if it's redundant, they're not really even motivated. It becomes just a challenge of the classic challenge of there's going to be apathy at some point. So your agents ideally would be focusing on things that ideally are a bit mundane, from an incident or even from the tickets and the nature of the tickets that they'll be getting. So the redundancies ideally need to also be addressed in terms of how can you possibly automate, how can you possibly leverage on some of the technologies such as machine learning, and what are some of the things that you can have in place, and also just to build a very good knowledge base that this can be dealt with from that point of view. Of course, you also have the turnaround time. This can also be a big challenge, especially when it comes to resolution of some of the issues. What that happens is that for your internal and even external clients, on the other end, that can also be very demotivating as well, because they have to wait for so long. Possibly, they're also not able to work because now it's taken too long in that approval queue. That is the other challenge that also you tend to see, especially when you have a mismatch, like you earlier said, in terms of you having a right-sized organization, a right-sized way, just to look at how do you end-to-end, how does your IT service management look like? And then, of course, transparency is also a very big issue, especially when we're talking about performance, because now, I believe now everything is very heavy on performance management, and this is metrics and gaining insights and being able just to look at what is your productivity graph like? What kind of data can you collect just to be able now to assess even the performance of this agent? So you need data. You need to have a mechanism that's going to be able to give you very good, effective matrices that now you can gain insights. Because the other thing that you also want to do is you need to have a way of continuous monitoring, that it's actually a dashboard at the click of a button, that you can actually get everything that you need, if in terms of if it's the resolution rate, if it's utilization rate, you need to assess your capacity, if it's actually the right size, are you doing effectively based on the size of the organization. And when you look at the ratio of your agents and the ratio of the incidences, the issues that they are working on, and the nature of such issues, you need to be able to draw insights. And that has been a challenge. That has been a challenge because most of the time you'd want to know, because even when you talk about security incidences, we always say that the first point of contact ideally should also be like the service desk, if not the security team that also are co-opted by the service desk, because you'd have users all over the place. They need to be able to have some of these issues addressed. And we've seen issues where it came as a very simple IT, it was face value, it looked like a very simple IT issue, but deep down there was actually a deeper issue. So the speed to resolution is actually very pivotal as well. And those are some of the challenges that ideally you'd be looking at when you talk about also productivity. So then the question is, how then can you leverage on some of the better tools that can actually help you achieve this. And being very agnostic, this is something that even as consultants, you definitely want to look at in terms of what is the outlay and how is this organization streamlined. And when you talk about from an ITSM point of view, what kind of mechanisms do they have in place to make sure, number one, their agents are productive, they're looking at the right things at the right time, and also number two, the issue resolution time to resolve it is actually cut short, so that now people can be able now to have some of these problems addressed. And then the last one is metrics. Are you able to have effective insights? Are you able to assess your performance? Are you able to assess the productivity reports in real time? Can you know what your agents are working on? And are you able now to, because Peter Drucker says, what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. So the inability to have data that you can actually measure and you can actually use to make certain adjustments then become very, very pivotal. Thank you.
That is very true, Anthony. Thank you very much for sharing your insight. That was very useful. I think we also have Kasi here. Hi, Kasi.
Hi,
Hey.
Emma. You can hear me.
Yeah, no, I mean it's great that you were able to join. We were just saying that the cyclone in Chennai is so bad that we are having network issues. But we're glad that you were able to join, Kasi.
That's right. I mean, it was really a bad timing that we had the disaster, and thankfully everything is back in store now, so I'm able to join.
Awesome. So, Kasi, as Anthony was talking about the challenges in agent productivity and some of his tips on how we can actually solve that, will you be able to add some of your insights, some of maybe something that you've seen in customers, some ways that customers are handling this particular challenge? It'll be great if you can add that.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, first, I'd like to thank Anthony for giving those wonderful insights, because if you all did notice, there was a very key element he did mention in the discussion about turnaround time, which is not one of the 4 productivities that we enforced, right? In fact, that's tied to all of this as a story, because be it repetitive tasks, be it your manual tasks that you work on every single ticket, or maybe your workflows in terms of approval that's lost in queue. All of that ties down to your turnaround time, because there is a lot of manual intervention today. And how customers with us today do it is using our workflows. And when I say workflows, it could perform any automated tasks, such as orchestration calls by giving user access, resetting your AD password, or provisioning a user when you have a new employee onboarded. And then talking about parent-child ticketing, which is nothing but let's call it similar issues, but you spend more time on working on the same ticket again and again in different tabs. How do you be able to automate that relationship and communicate in a single source? I think all of that triggers from our workflows, and I think that is a good call out to say when you say turnaround time is very important for any agent to be more productive. One other thing I also would like to call out would be when it comes to collaboration. Now, it's not just IT we are speaking when we work on service desk, right? We collaborate with multiple other teams within IT. How do you collaborate with them? Integrations with your chat platforms, be it your MS Teams or Slack, where we could have bot conversations as well, and make your productivity much more quicker. So you are able to measure metrics in terms of turnaround time or resolution rates.
Yeah, that's true. That's great. Kasi, you did mention about the workflows, automations, and how do you think that the workflow automator can help? Is there a particular example that you can shine light on in saying that this is usually a complex situation in IT, and this is how you can use a workflow automator? Will it be possible to give an example of that sort?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, there could be just one classic example to talk through all these cases when it comes to workflow automation, right? We all know that day in, day out, people join an organization, and we have onboarding process set up from IT, which flows onto different departments. I think that's one classic example where you onboard an employee, and then it splits into different tasks to different teams, one for payroll, possibly one for email access. And when you speak about email and accessibility, I think that's where orchestration also kicks in. So we are able to automate user provisioning on AD and other cloud solutions like Azure, AWS, where you could automatically provision a server maybe once a user is onboarded. I think that's a best example. And speaking about the same workflows, we can also introduce approval mechanisms as well. If there has to be a password reset, which is not about a new user, but an existing user asking for a password reset, which means that will have to go through a line manager approval, maybe if required. And all that can be done automated without you having to go into multiple tabs, checking onto AD, and then coming back into your ITSM to modify the workflow.
Got it. Got it. That's a great example. And Anthony, coming back to you, what do you think is the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning when it comes to agent productivity? How can AI help an agent in improving his or her productivity?
Excellent. I think that's a very, very good question because, in fact, that's one of the levers that organizations can actually leverage on. Because, number one, when you first of all have a very good, call it like a knowledge base, given that the nature of some of these issues and incidences, you're able now to build a very effective knowledge base so that now that is normally the first point. So machine learning and also artificial intelligence can actually help you automate this in terms of if when you talk about some of these highly repetitive tasks or highly repetitive issues that can be quickly resolved by a predefined way or a collective of predefined solutions that basically have been are there in the knowledge base, then you're able now to automate this further. So where we have artificial intelligence and machine learning, or rather the infusion of both, is basically the organization being able just to have a way to rapidly respond and to be able to deal with issues at scale, because that's the other thing. When you automate these things, you're able now to deal with multiple issues at the same time, as opposed to being highly dependent on the limited resources to deal with all those issues. And then, of course, from a productivity perspective, you'll see your agents now being deployed to higher value or more intellectual areas of resolution. So artificial intelligence would actually come there. Because it's going to help in automation. It's going to increase the turnaround time for resolution. It's also going to help you also develop and further enhance your knowledge base, because of course you'll be able to pick the exceptions from the norm, and from that you're also able to extrapolate what these issues look like as well. And also, just to mention to also my earlier point around collecting data, and it's very, very important because you need to be able to generate insights, and you need to be able just to be forward-looking, because when you now do your analytics based on the kind of data that you're able to collect, then you can do a few projections, and you can also be able now to chart a strategy, your ITSM strategy based on that as well. So there's that learning aspect that you're also going to have based on that. So, but long and short, it's right to basically deploy tools that are going to help you that. And this is where the role of emerging technologies are there to help our work easier and to help even the agents work easier and more productive.
That's exactly what I was interested to learn from you, Anthony. Thank you. And Kasi, just one last question to you about agent productivity and AI, right? As Anthony mentioned, the importance of AI. What do you think? You're a lot more closer to a lot of our customers. So what do you think is the adoption of AI in our customers? Do you think it's prevalent, or do you think it's just still catching up?
I think we are in the right time of the world speaking about AI and automations, right? Everybody's sitting at home, working from home with all the natural disaster that's happening around. So I think we have seen a lot of traction, and that's where speaking about the same knowledge base example of Anthony, right? How agents can be easily accessible to knowledge articles when there's an issue that's coming up internally. So I think that's something we also do encourage, and we in fact do support that as well, where agents could be able to access knowledge articles while replying to any kind of tickets that flows in, for example. Or at the same time, the same is also enabled in our bots, where employees can also experience the same bot experience, so they don't have to wait for an agent in queue to talk to an agent to get their IT issues resolved.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So so as a whole, if I can summarize what Anthony and Kasi had mentioned, agent productivity has always been a challenge in many organizations, and now with a lot of employees working from home, the kind of issues that employees face has also increased a lot, and the repetitive and mundane tickets have also increased. And AI could be a great technology that can be leveraged in times like this to increase agent productivity. Thank you, Anthony and Kasi, for that. Now let's move on to the next topic. It's employee experience. So, as we move from agent productivity to employee experience, both these are very closely tied together. So, when you think about employee experience, it is not only about the technology that you provide for them in order to do their tasks, do their everyday tasks, but also in terms of how fast we are able to solve their solutions. How are we helping them be more productive in their work? So, and in fact, this is a very important criteria when an employee thinks about how they feel when it comes to their organization, right? So the employee experience is very important for an employee to be productive in the organization. And before we dive deep into this, let's have a question. You will be able to see a poll on your screen right now. Yes, thank you. So, how enabled do your employees feel with the technology you provide? Please select any of the option that fits right in your organization. Let me explain a little about the options. A fully enabled is where when your employees are fully enabled, it means that they are able to solve their own issues, either using a great self-service portal, a great knowledge base section, or a great implementation of an artificial intelligence, right? That is fully enabled. And on the other end of the spectrum is high dependencies, where even to raise a ticket into the service desk, they need an intervention from the agent. They need a human intervention even to raise a ticket, and it takes a lot of time for them to get their issues resolved. So that's the two end of the spectrums that you're seeing here: fully enabled to high dependencies. Please select an option that works for you. All right, I see that a lot of you are selecting enabled but with dependencies. So it means that your employees do have the opportunities to resolve their own issues, but then it's not that effective. You may have a self-service portal, but that's not, the adoption is not too great. You may have a K-based section, but it's not helping a lot of your employees to solve their own issues. So that gets us to the next section where we can see the impact that this has on employees, right? The impact that enabling your employees but having a lot of dependencies, how does it affect your employees? It makes them to be disengaged when it comes to their everyday work, and it definitely disrupts the business continuity when they are in the process of getting some work done. It could be something for a prospective customer, and if they're not able to go ahead with their work, there is a stoppage there for the business continuity. And also, most of the employees feel that when the organization does not provide the right technology for them, they don't feel great about working in that particular organization. They always prefer to look for another opportunity that will help them be more productive, that will help them be much more efficient. And the lack of collaboration between disparate departments is also one of the biggest challenge, and it is even more of a challenge today because we're not sitting in the same office. We're all sitting at our homes, where the collaboration between one person to another person within the same team and within different departments is extremely important to resolve a particular issue. So let's see what Anthony has to add to employee experience. Anthony, will you be able to share your thoughts on employee experience?
Okay. Great. So I think just tied to earlier the challenges that we also discussed, because service delivery, and let me say that effective and efficient service delivery has a very big impact on employee experience, and we definitely want to elevate this conversation to looking at how can we take this to the next level, and then how can you get maximum engagement from your employees, where they're feeling, number one, they're supported, that their issues are resolved on time, and is resolved effectively. Because right now, when you're talking about customer experience, and internally, your internal customers would ideally be still the employees of the organization as well. Customer experience is king, and in any service delivery role, your work is basically just to make sure that your employees are happy with the service, and they're feeling supported, so that they can also become effective, because that actually has a very, very big impact on the productivity of the organization, and also the performance of the entire organization. If they're enabled to work, ideally, it's good for everyone, and it's good for the business. So when there's a mismatch and there's a challenge in terms of how this is actually how service is actually enhanced, and how they're, if you're talking about the agents, if they're not able to effectively resolve the issues that the internal customers and even external customers have, then you're going to have an issue, because number one, services are going to be largely disrupted. So again, service availability, there's going to be a challenge there if the issues are unresolved, right? And that is quite obvious. But then, of course, you'd look at the impact to the jobs and to the roles. Because if now employees feel that, there's an issue in services and they're not able to execute their roles effectively, they're pretty much going to be unsatisfied. And what that means is that it's going to impact performance, and their jobs is really going to be impacted as well. So again, given that there's a dependency of the workplace platforms that they normally use, they are not really going to be so happy. So again, employee engagement is going to be affected in that from that regard. So the other thing is lack of automation and lack of tools. The lack of it can actually also have an impact in terms of having employees not being fully engaged and not being fully satisfied and motivated, because they're going to be looking at, they're lacking the basic tool sets to help them achieve the objectives, because again, they're there to perform a certain mandate, a certain role, and they have a performance metric tied to it. So if they're not enabled with the effective tools to do so, again, you'll find that they're not really happy. And guess what happens? They're going to look for another employer who's going to give them that, job satisfaction. So that is also the other impact of that. And then, of course, especially where you are not able to have a single pane of reading data and getting insights. And I can tell you, most of the times, the root cause is normally you have silos from a system point of view. Like the systems are quite siloed, but also you have departments that are also working in silos. So lack of integration and lack of working together and collaboration can also be a challenge that can, in effect, also cause employees to be a bit disengaged. So those are just the issues, and I'm speaking quite broadly because these are normally common symptoms of an underlying problem, and this problem, you need to look at how are you able to address it. So I hope that answers that question.
Yes, it does, Anthony. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Kasi, what do you think? What do you think about improving employee engagement? Have you seen that in some of our customers, maybe?
See, I mean, like again, Anthony mentioned, or the talking point here is traditionally we are all used to email communications, right? Be it whatever department we have to talk to, and slowly devolved into the need that became we need to have a portal in place which can be of self-service, where they can have a knowledge article which they can refer to, or be able to talk to a team and get help. And again, given the world, thanks to that, we are moving to that, and we have started to see a lot of customers being able to use the product not just in emails or just portals, but also maybe, let's say, the mobile app. That's more easy to use today. So on the go, you don't have any issues. Disrupted service is always available with a mobile app to speak about. Also speaking in terms of collaborations where different departments work in silos, I think we will be extending this to multiple departments speaking about. So it's not just an ITSM, it's more of an enterprise service readiness where multiple departments can be within the single platform and can collaborate as well.
Okay, that sounds great. When it comes to employee experience, right, I've always had this question in me. When you think about employees outside of work, right, when you look at them as consumers of many other technology, for example, in India, maybe we can pick Swiggy or Zomato or Uber or Ola, where they are very used to the pattern where they request a particular service, they get it very, very soon. They get it in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes, right? That's very soon. So they are very used to this pattern of getting service at a very short time. But the same person, when they come into an organization and when they become an employee and when they request a service, it takes 2 days, 3 days. And that doesn't really sit well with the current employee, right? The current workforce. So how do you think that we will be able to match this kind of expectation that employees have as a consumer outside of organization and inside organization? And do virtual agents play any role in this?
I mean, you brought the answer towards the end, the virtual agent concept, right? Speaking about it, now, like I said, traditionally we're all used to emails and portals, and now we are moving into the modern world. So definitely, yes, we do have a virtual agent as well, seeing a lot of influence in the market. Speaking about it, we do have MS Teams as a service board available now, because most employees are on the local platform, let's say MS Teams, or very rarely in Google as well. And now we also see an emerging rise in Slack. So communications with multiple departments within, let's say, a Slack or MS Teams is also integrated. So you are able to have a single source of truth. No matter where you talk to, you still get all of that into your ITSM solution.
Yeah, that's great. So, having your virtual agent integrated to different collaboration channels can really improve the employee experience. Can really help employees reach the service agent, or get any service in whichever channel that they prefer to, right? Instead of sticking to the traditional email. I get it. I understand. Thank you, Kasi, for that. Anthony, to you, I have one question that I would like to get some insights from you. When it comes to, as Kasi mentioned, there are many channels through which employees can reach to the service team, to the IT team. It could be chat, it could be email. But then, one of the most important functionalities of a service management solution is to provide a robust self service portal. But then we all know that many organizations suffer with increasing the adoption of this self-service portal. So, what are the different ways in which you can increase self-service adoption? Do you have any tips on that?
Absolutely, and I think that's a very good question because it's a very common issue where it's the classic hole where you've invested in capacity, but utilization is very low. So it's a very classic issue. So around that, mainly you need to really focus and put a very huge focus in terms of the awareness and communication part of it. Because what people do not know, they're not going to be interested in it. So I think organizations should never be tired just to send out communication, encouraging people to do so, to come on board. And then it actually needs to be very simple. People don't like complex processes because they'll be like, you know what, I can call the person sitting at help desk and they're going to get this done. But once you have that provision where the self-service portal is actually there and it's linked and it's seamlessly linked to the areas that ideally your staff, the employees would actually want to get resolution for, and it needs to be in a very simple way, then they're going to do that. So there has to be a lot of awareness and intentionality, and also being deliberate in terms of when certain requests come through in the traditional way, for your team also just to a bit, respectfully direct people just to go to the self-service portal, because that is where the solution is. So there has also to be that intentional way just to route those requests to people getting into, now the self-service portal, because again, people are normally resistant to change. So when you take such initiatives in terms of sensitization, which is communication and awareness, training people on it, and then of course routing them and encouraging them to explore that, as opposed to the alternative ways that used to work, but now you're moving into this other dispensation, that is also very, very beneficial. I have personally seen the same in my organization, where when that was done, we've been highly encouraged just to do that. And communication always comes in, and it comes in frequently. And when you reach out to them, they would be kind enough even just to show you how to do it, because sometimes it's people don't know how to use it. So that there's really a focus on awareness, training people on how to do it, but also just making sure that the benefits are very obvious. You can also position in terms of when you use this, something that would have taken an hour or something that would have taken, 30 minutes can actually take you 5 minutes to resolve it. So there's incentive also for the employees just to explore that. So that is some of the creative ways that you can actually use, but long and short is you need to be in their faces. They need to understand, they need to know these are the benefits, these are the features, and it needs to be simple and seamless. And then of course you need to route them and encourage them just to do so, to use it.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Kasi, for sharing your insight and knowledge on this. That was great. Again, to summarize, Again, AI is on employee experience as well. And one of the points that both Anthony and Kasi mentioned is it all boils down to being where your employees are, right? You may have a great self-service portal, but that's not going to ensure that your employees are going to have a great experience. You have a lot of ways in which you can drive the self-service portal adoption, like how Anthony mentioned, but it doesn't stop there. We need to make sure that IT is available in the channel where your employees are. It can be Slack, it can be MS Teams, it can be any collaboration tool that your organization uses internally. So, when it comes to a service management solution, you need to be sure that you will be able to integrate these collaboration tools with the service management solution. And for everybody present today in the audience, we see a lot of questions coming in. Keep your questions coming in as and when you have them, and we have a Q&A session at the end, and we will be picking up your questions and we'll be answering them live. So keep your questions coming. Now let's jump to the next section, which is extensibility. And extensibility, which is not something that is usually looked for in a solution when you look to invest in a solution, because you will usually have a problem, a challenge that you are facing in your organization. And when you look at a vendor, when you look at a solution, you'll be wondering if this solution will be able to solve my particular challenge, my particular issue. But then this issue that you're having is today's issue. As your organization scales, will you be able to meet out all the challenges that you will be facing with the same service management solution? That is a question that you need to be asking yourself. Will you be able to scale all of your requirements with the current service management solution that you're going with? The usual answer is no, right? But that's okay, because it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter about the capabilities or the functionalities of your solution, but it comes with the extensibility. Will you be able to extend the capability using an integration? It could be an API integration, it could be a custom form or a custom app that you can build in the platform. So you should be able to the solution needs to be flexible enough to provide integrations with the solutions that you're currently using in your organization, and for any solutions that you may be using in the future. So that's how extensibility is very important when it comes to service management solution. Now, before we go here, we have some of the challenges that using multiple solutions puts forth. Now, when your service management solution is not extensible, when you're not able to integrate your service management solution to any other solution that you're using in your organization, it becomes very difficult to resolve issues, right? Many L2, L3, or complex issues involve data or involve information that are available in multiple tools. Now, if you are to switch between these multiple tools in order to figure out what went wrong, in order to figure out the root cause of the issue, then there is a high possibility that you're going to miss out on something. This creates a big loophole. Now, this loophole can lead to anything from having dissatisfied customers, or it could cause a very bad employee experience, or sometimes it could be as bad as having a service or an application down for a long time, which can directly have a business impact, a very negative business impact. So these are all the challenges that kind of come when your service management solution is not extensible. Now, let's see what Anthony has to say when it comes to extensibility of a service management solution. I'm not sure if Anthony is available. Yes, he is. Hi, Anthony.
Hi. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes. Sorry, I thought we lost you.
No worries, I'm still here. So I think some of the benefits are actually very intuitive in terms of having an open platform, because again, there's so much value and so much benefits in terms of using an open, widely extensible tool, because you can now leverage on basically using, especially number one, using various tools. You can take the best of both worlds, in a light way, in terms of what can you do just to enhance and just to elevate your service experience, and take it to the next level. So you're able actually just to switch and have multiple tools and be able just to seamlessly have an end-to-end features and functionalities infused. Like I earlier mentioned, things like matrices, things like performance monitoring. You need to sometimes look at how can you complement the existing tool that you have, and what can you have, and how you able to switch between various tools that you also have. So the other thing is, and to our earlier challenge that we also pointed out is, when you're using multiple tools, there can also be some, level of duplication, or rather, if it's not seamless and some of the data is actually not brought together. So you really want to kill that siloed approach. So when you basically have a platform that you can infuse other tools or many tools into it, you're able basically just to have the records and have a single plane of view and just be able just to integrate them. And then, of course, sometimes you can have a challenge in terms of if you have various information that's sitting in different places, it's also going to have an impact to your agents in terms from a productivity perspective. So you basically need to see how then can you be able to infuse and integrate all of them. And then, of course, you want to reduce the human errors, because you have human beings who are working on some of these issues and who are going to be manning this tool. So basically, you want to reduce the dependencies, because when you lack the extensibility, then you might need to have people doing some manual interventions, especially if it's like from system A or tool A to tool B to tool C. So you really want to reduce the human errors that are also there. So again, an extensible platform is ideally normally the best. And we talk about this also in different spheres, not only from an ITSM perspective, but even from a security point of view, where you need to have what we call a fabric. And a fabric is where tools speak to each other. They're actually knitted together, as opposed to disparate tools sitting with disparate data that are not speaking to each other. So you want to see how then can you minimize and how can you reduce that by having some, a good level of extensibility and having this platform open so that you can be able now to, build layers on top of it.
Yeah, that's true. As you mentioned, Anthony, it is very important to make sure that we do not have multiple tools, and we do not miss out on information. Meanwhile, now let's see what Kasi has to say. Kasi, do you think extensibility is one of the important things to look for in a service management solution? And do you have any use cases that you can share?
I will definitely not let down on extensibility, because we did speak about agent productivity previously, and also employee experience. The major letdown for employees today in the industry is that it's not integrated, and you have to log into multiple tools to access something, right? And that's where we want to empower ourselves, or rather see our customers, move into the tradition of having a single portal which can not just do your IT service delivery part, but also integrate with other platforms, like Anthony rightly mentioned about performances monitoring. So let's say if a server is not working, you don't have to wait for that information to be manually created as an incident, but rather communicate that integrated between your service monitoring tool and your ITSM. So you're able to, cater to your turnaround time. So if you see all of this tied to the story, it doesn't stop at a place.
Right, right. Okay, that's great. I had a question here, Kasi and Anthony, to both of you, maybe. So the integration, when we talk about service management tools integrating with a lot of other tools, the most common ones that I hear about are the collaboration tools, right? But in addition to this, ITSM solutions also have integration with tools in the ITOM space, or with tools in the endpoint management space. So what do you think about those? What is the importance of having integration between, let's say, an ITSM solution and an endpoint management solution? Um, can you throw some light on that, Anthony?
Sure. I think it's very important to even, what has been mentioned earlier, that you definitely need these tools to speak together, because especially where you have an incident or a downtime and or something that would actually impact availability of your services, you need to have a mechanism of having automated real-time promptings, where a prompt is actually sent to the other tool that's able also just to alert the people who normally need to give this, who provide the response. So that is extremely important. And I can tell you, sometime an incident it's normally, especially from a security perspective, is the time that you're going to take to resolve it that can actually save between losing 100K, maybe even to cyber attackers, and losing $1 million, right, to cyber attackers. So you basically need to have timely prompting alerts that can actually be done from different monitoring areas. So you can even have your IT service monitoring tool that's actually monitoring uptime. So if something is down, it actually needs to communicate to this other tool that the incident responders, the agents are actually sitting, as well as some of the security tools that you'd be looking at if it's a security operations center, where there's a SIM that is also supposed to detect some of the security issues, or other security events and incidences that they also happen. And if it's an endpoint, when you're talking about if there's a breach or there is something that has happened to that endpoint device, that also has to be picked. So it's very, very important for the tools to speak to each other, because it's all about actionability. Why are we detecting this downtime? Is because we want to take action. So if this action is actually not taken on time, just because one tool is not communicating to the other, then you have a very big disconnect there. And that is where the problem is. So basically, we need to have what I call a fabric, where tools will speak to each other across different functions. Like you'd find a security monitoring tool that needs to speak to an endpoint monitoring agent, or an endpoint detection agent, or you also need to have this tool that's going to be able now to collect data from if it's an IT service monitoring tool as well. So it's pivotal just to be able now to have this mechanism, and that is also very beneficial to the organization, because when we look at what it actually means to have a downtime for a full day just because it wasn't detected right, then it actually justifies the fact that action and timely action is of the essence. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really true. That's nice. Thank you, Anthony. And as Anthony was talking about how ITSM solution has to listen to all of these alerts that come in from other monitoring tools, so that the service management solution will be able to identify when there is an action that needs to be taken, right? But then when you think about that, an organization is going to have multiple monitoring tools, right? It could be network monitoring, traffic monitoring, application monitoring, and this is only in the network side. And then there are a lot of other monitoring tools. So imagine the number of alerts that will be pouring in from all of these monitoring solutions. And this can easily cause an alert fatigue, right? So is there a solution for this? Kasi, will you be able to maybe add some pointers on how organizations can deal with alert fatigue when it comes to integration between ITSM and other monitoring solutions?
Right. Now, just to add on the alerts bit, right? Even before we could know that, let's say if a server is degrading in performances today, in traditional ways, it's not automated. You have to navigate between two platforms. I think that's the reason why we need to have a single platform which can talk to everything, right? So what we do see in customers' environment is that with the help of our solutions, that when an alert is received, let's say a PRTG, like you mentioned, there are different alert monitoring tools in the space which is being monitored. Let's say, for example, PRTG or SolarWinds, where alerts are received about service. How does that come into your service desk automatically? And from there, your turnaround times, because if your alerts are not converted into resolutions, imagine the cost that you're going to give to your employees, like how you mentioned about if your customer is not happy with the product, it's the same way with your employees as well, right? If you can't support your employees at these bad times, then there's no best way to automate. I think that's where the purpose of our open platform comes in play, where we integrate with not just being a siloed ITSM solution, but also talk to other platforms like alert monitoring, and then convert that into an incident, which then also allows you to plan for your change if required. So you have an entire ITIL compliance as well, which supports all of these processes.
Right. That's right, Kasi. So to understand and to also summarize what Anthony and Kasi mentioned here, it is imperative for the service management solution to be able to talk to other solutions. And it is extremely crucial because this can be the one difference that is going to save your organization from having a downtime, which can really be a huge cost. And one other thing that I would like to add upon what Anthony and Kasi had mentioned is that the number of alerts that are going to come into your service management solution when you integrate it with other monitoring solutions is going to be humongous. The number of tickets is going to be extremely large, that it's going to cause alert fatigue for your agents. Your agents will not be able to peruse through all of the alerts that are in there. So this service management solution should be smart enough to understand that all of these alerts are coming in from one configuration item. And if that's the case, then all of these alerts have to be put under one particular ticket. And there should be only one ticket for all of the alerts coming in from one configuration item. This can really help in reducing the alert fatigue when it comes to integrating service management and other monitoring solutions. Kasi, would you agree to that?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I cannot disagree more because the fact that, like you mentioned, different alerts coming in, for example, or let's say a single asset causing multiple issues, right? You should be able to tag the relationship altogether. So as an organization unit, if you were to see where you had a lot of fatigue in terms, not just alert, but also the asset itself, which caused you trouble. So you're able to fix that in so that you don't avoid any performances degrade in the future. So I think that lies in not just having a siloed ITSM, but like I mentioned, integrating with all of the solutions available.
Perfect. Thank you, Kasi. Thank you, Anthony, for sharing your inputs on this. Now, let's move on to an offer that we have for all of you today. This is going to be a great offer because we are hosting a demo day where you can learn a lot more about Freshservice, which is the ITSM solution of Freshworks. And you will be able to also have conversations with product experts, technology experts who will be able to answer your questions, whether it's regarding Freshservice or it's regarding the anything in ITSM space. So please select a solution. Please select an option which suits you best. In the demo day, we'll be walking through the Freshservice product itself. You'll be able to look at the UI of the solution. You'll be able to see how it works. You'll be able to see different modules in that, all of the ITIL modules and many of the areas which we covered today, starting from agent productivity to employee experience to extensibility. We'll be covering all of this in a live demo in the demo day. So go ahead and choose the option that you'd like to attend. All right. Thank you very much for participating in that poll. Now we have one last topic that I want to cover. I hope it's not getting too late for all of you. This is going to be an interesting topic as well, and we'll quickly go over it. So when it comes to enterprise service management, it is simply extending your IT to other departments, right? And when you think about the core of service management solution, when you think about the core of ITIL, it is basically improving the operational efficiency of several processes. It could be from getting a service provision to getting an issue resolved. No matter which category it falls into, it all comes down to increasing the efficiency of a particular process. So the same thing can be applied to a HR process, like how Kasi mentioned earlier. It could be an onboarding or offboarding process, or it could be a legal process. It could be a financial process where multiple processes are going on with multiple vendors, with many stakeholders involved in the approval process. Right. So let's quickly take a look at what are all the challenges when it comes to enterprise service management and why it is important. So we have multiple tools that are used by IT and HR and marketing teams and legal teams, whereas the stakeholders of a particular issue were inside an IT team are also in a HR team or also in a legal team. So how do we get all of the stakeholders in one particular unit, in one particular solution, so that it could be much more efficient? Anthony, can we have you to share your thoughts on this, please?
Great. Hi. So I think bringing all stakeholders together is very important. It's actually very key. So even from experience, and I'm just giving just a general view on this, is you definitely need to onboard the different people that again are involved, because when you look at the life cycle and when you look at the ITSM universe, ideally you'd have different people who need to come together, right? Now, let me give you a very good case example. You would have your line one, and line one is where you're looking at the service desk and the people who sit there, right? But then you'd have your line two, and line two, this are now the people that ideally would do the problem resolutions, right? So problem resolution, you'd have people from the security team. Yeah, maybe there is a cyber incident. Your service delivery desk team picked it up, but then they need to escalate it to people that are now going to basically just resolve it, sitting in a different department, possibly. And this is an example. You would ideally also have people that would also sit. If this is still line two, would sit maybe in application support, right? That ideally would be responsible just for, if it's a certain system, these are the people now who normally support it. They can be the developers, but you can also have like your network engineers as well as part of the problem resolution team. So when you look at that multi-stakeholder approach to service delivery, then it's very key that ideally you need to, of course, there are different systems that these people would ideally be using. The networking team would actually be using like their network, they'll be using their network monitoring tools. Possibly they have a knock. So you need to see how can the tool that is being used as the first point of issue resolution is integrating with that tool, and how does it also integrate with the tools that are also being used by the security team. So again, there's going to be a lot of benefits if you have tools that are able to speak to each other. So because these stakeholders ideally will be looking at that, and if you're onboarding an employee, they'll still need network access. Possibly they'll need system access to a certain system. So who's going to provide that? Might be sitting in a different unit. So there's also a lot of efficiencies when you take that approach, where bringing all the stakeholders together, and they can also see some of this, the life of an employee end to end, from when they report, they need to be given a machine. Who's that team? Who's that person who's going to provide the hardware? Then they will need system access. Who's that person who's going to give that employee system access? Possibly there's a specialized system that actually is looked at by a different team. So who's going to do that? So basically, it's a question of just operationalizing that efficiency and just being able just to have a very seamless way of creating the profile in the life cycle of that employee. And then lastly, it's just having visibility. If you don't have visibility, and everyone does not have visibility of this, then it can be a bit of a challenge. So some of the business processes, especially when you talk about standard operating procedures, they also need to be very clear. So it's a question of just making sure that everyone has a single view, everyone can actually see that employee, and even issues, and even when you're talking about effectively carrying out certain tasks that are very pivotal just to enable employee to work and be productive, that all the stakeholders can actually be able just to tell what should they do. And then there's a very, very effective workflow that is going to go end to end. So that's just my view. Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony. That was very interesting. And it is common knowledge that ESM is very important when it comes to increasing operational efficiency. But a lot of organizations are struggling with implementing that. And I think, Anthony, your points really helped, having some idea of how to go on about it. Thank you.